Hello, and a warm welcome to Sleepy Science. Tonight, we are going to explore something both ancient and alive, something golden and endlessly fascinating. We are going to journey into the world of honey. This remarkable substance has been with humanity since our earliest days, sweetening our food, healing our wounds, and captivating our imaginations. It is created by tiny creatures following instincts millions of years old, transforming flowers into liquid gold. Honey is more than just a sweetener. It is a story of cooperation, chemistry, and the gentle rhythms of nature. A story that has unfolded in countless hives across every continent where flowers bloom. If this quiet exploration brings you peace, I invite you to like and subscribe, or leave a thought in the comments below. It helps others discover this space, one restful listener at a time. But for now, there is nothing you need to do except settle in, breathe slowly, and let the golden glow of honey's story carry you gently towards sleep. Let us begin. Honey is one of the oldest foods known to humanity. Long before agriculture, before writing, before cities rose from the earth, humans were already seeking out honey. Cave paintings from Spain, dating back 8,000 years, show figures climbing trees and reaching into wild hives, surrounded by bees. In those ancient times, honey was not cultivated, but hunted, a precious treasure hidden in hollow trees and rocky crevices. It was worth the risk of stings because nothing else in nature tasted quite like it. Sweet, rich, and rare, honey gave energy when food was scarce. It never spoiled, even when stored in simple containers made of bark or clay. Early humans did not understand why honey lasted so long, but they recognized its value. They passed down knowledge of where the bees nested, which seasons brought the best harvests, and how to approach a hive without angering its inhabitants. This relationship between humans and bees stretches back so far that it feels woven into our very origins. Honey was there at the beginning, golden and enduring, a gift from the natural world. Bees transform nectar into honey through a remarkable process. When a honeybee visits a flower, it does not simply collect nectar and store it. The journey from flower to honey involves chemistry, teamwork, and time. A forager bee sips nectar, a sugary liquid produced by blossoms to attract pollinators. The nectar is stored temporarily in a special stomach called a honey stomach, separate from the bee's digestive system. Once back at the hive, the forager passes the nectar to a house bee through a process called trophallaxis, mouth-to-mouth transfer. This is where transformation begins. As the nectar moves between bees, enzymes are added. These enzymes break down complex sugars into simpler ones, primarily glucose and fructose. The bees then spread the nectar across the honeycomb cells, fanning it with their wings to evaporate excess water. This reduces the moisture content from about 70% down to around 18%. When the honey reaches the right consistency, thick and stable, the bees seal the cell with a wax cap. What started as watery nectar has become honey, concentrated, preserved, and ready to nourish the colony through winter or times of scarcity. Every drop represents countless trips to flowers, countless exchanges between bees, and the patient work of evaporation under the hum of wings. A single bee produces only about 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey in her lifetime. It is a humbling measurement. One bee, working tirelessly through her short life, contributes just a tiny fraction of a teaspoon to the hive's stores. She may visit thousands of flowers, fly hundreds of miles, and work from dawn until dusk. Yet her individual contribution seems almost invisible. But this is the beauty of the hive. No single bee creates abundance alone. It is the collective effort of tens of thousands of bees, each adding her small portion, that fills the combs with golden reserves. A hive working through a single summer can produce 60 pounds of honey or more, enough to sustain the colony through the cold months ahead. Each jar of honey you see represents the life's work of countless bees. When you drizzle honey onto toast or stir it into tea, you are tasting the combined labor of thousands of small lives, each one vital, each one part of something far greater than itself. It is a reminder that even the smallest contributions matter when they come together. Honey never spoils if stored properly. Archaeologists have discovered pots of honey in ancient Egyptian tombs, sealed for over 3,000 years. When opened, the honey was still perfectly edible, its color and texture unchanged by the millennia. This remarkable longevity is not magic but chemistry. Honey is naturally resistant to bacteria and microorganisms for several reasons. First, its low moisture content, around 18%, creates an environment where most bacteria cannot survive. Microbes need water to grow, and honey simply does not provide enough. Second, honey is highly acidic, with a typical pH between 3 and 4.5. This acidity inhibits the growth of many pathogens. Third, bees add an enzyme called glucose oxidase, which produces small amounts of hydrogen peroxide, a natural antimicrobial agent. Finally, the high sugar concentration creates osmotic pressure, pulling water out of any bacterial cells that attempt to grow. All these factors combine to make honey one of the most stable foods in existence. It does not need refrigeration, preservatives, or special treatment. Left in a sealed jar in a cool, dry place, honey can last indefinitely. It may crystallize over time, but this is not spoilage. Gently warming the jar will return it to liquid form. Honey is patient. It waits, unchanged, for as long as needed. Bees must visit millions of flowers to make a single pound of honey. The scale of effort behind honey production is staggering. To create 1 pound of honey, bees must collectively visit approximately 2 million flowers. They fly a combined distance of over 50,000 miles, roughly twice the circumference of the Earth. Each forager bee makes multiple trips each day, flying up to 3 miles from the hive in search of nectar-rich blossoms. She visits between 50 and 100 flowers per trip before her honey stomach is full. Then she returns, navigates through the darkness of the hive, and transfers her load. The process repeats again and again, day after day, as long as flowers are blooming and weather permits. This immense effort is invisible when you look at a jar of honey, yet it is always there. Every golden spoonful holds within it the work of thousands of flights, millions of flower visits, and the quiet determination of creatures no larger than your thumb. It is a testament to persistence, to the power of small actions repeated, and to the intricate connections between bees and the flowering world they depend upon. Honey's flavor changes based on the flowers bees visit. Not all honey tastes the same. The blossoms that bees forage from leave their signature in the honey they create. Clover honey, one of the most common varieties, is light and mild, with a delicate sweetness. Wildflower honey, made from a mix of different plants, has a more complex, robust flavor. Orange blossom honey carries a hint of citrus, a whisper of the groves where it was made. Buckwheat honey is dark, almost molasses-like, with a strong, earthy taste. Lavender honey is fragrant and floral. Eucalyptus honey has a slightly medicinal, menthol note. The color changes too. Some honeys are nearly clear, pale as sunlight. Others are deep amber or even dark brown. The variety is nearly endless because bees do not discriminate. They visit whatever is blooming nearby. A hive in a forest will produce different honey than one in a meadow, and both will differ from a hive near an orchard. Beekeepers can influence the flavor by placing hives near specific crops, but ultimately, the bees decide. They follow the nectar, and the flowers shape the honey. Each jar is a portrait of a place and a season, a taste of the landscape bottled in gold. Honeybees communicate the location of flowers through dance. Inside the dark hive, where sight is limited, bees have developed a language of movement. When a forager returns from a rich source of nectar, she performs what is known as the waggle dance. This is not random movement, but a precise communication system. The bee moves in a figure-8 pattern, waggling her body during the central run. The angle of this waggle, relative to the vertical, indicates the direction of the flowers in relation to the sun. If the flowers are directly toward the sun, the bee waggles straight up. If they are away from the sun, she waggles straight down. Angles to the left or right convey directions accordingly. The duration of the waggle indicates distance. A longer waggle means the flowers are farther away. Other bees gather around, touching the dancer with their antennae, learning the location. They can even sense the scent of the flowers clinging to the forager's body, which helps them identify the blossoms when they arrive. This remarkable system allows the colony to rapidly mobilize toward the best food sources. It is a language without words, written in motion and vibration, passed from bee to bee in the darkness. Through dance, the hive becomes a coordinated network, efficient and adaptable, maximizing the harvest of every bloom. A colony can consist of up to 60,000 bees working together. A beehive is a city in miniature, a bustling metropolis of cooperation. At the height of summer, a strong colony may house 50,000 to 60,000 individuals, all working in harmony. There is one queen whose sole role is to lay eggs, up to 2,000 per day during peak season. There are a few hundred male drones whose purpose is to mate with queens from other hives. And there are tens of thousands of female worker bees who perform every other task the colony requires. Workers begin their lives as nurse bees, caring for larvae and maintaining the brood. As they age, they transition to building and repairing comb, receiving and storing nectar, and guarding the hive entrance. In their final weeks, they become foragers, venturing out into the world to gather nectar, pollen, water, and resin. Each bee knows her role instinctively, and the colony functions without central command. There is no manager directing traffic, no boss assigning tasks. Instead, the hive operates through chemical signals, pheromones, and the simple needs of the moment. If the hive is too warm, bees fan their wings to cool it. If larvae are hungry, nurses feed them. If nectar is abundant, more foragers take flight. It is organized chaos, a system that emerges from thousands of small decisions, all aligned toward the survival of the whole. The hive is greater than the sum of its parts, a living example of collective intelligence. Honey has been used as medicine for thousands of years. Long before modern pharmaceuticals, honey was a healer. Ancient Egyptians used it to treat wounds, applying it directly to cuts and burns. Greek physicians prescribed it for digestive ailments and sore throats. In Ayurvedic medicine, honey was considered a carrier for herbs, enhancing their effects. Traditional Chinese medicine used honey to balance energies and soothe inflammation. These uses were not merely folklore. Honey possesses genuine antimicrobial properties. Its low pH, high sugar content, and hydrogen peroxide production inhibit bacterial growth. When applied to a wound, honey creates a protective barrier, reduces infection risk, and promotes healing. Modern research has confirmed what ancient healers intuited. Studies show that honey can accelerate wound healing, reduce scarring, and even combat antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Medical-grade honey, particularly Manuka honey from New Zealand, is now used in hospitals for wound care. It is effective against MRSA and other stubborn infections. Honey also soothes coughs as effectively as some over-the-counter medications, coating the throat and reducing irritation. The enzymes and antioxidants in honey support the immune system. While honey is not a cure-all, its therapeutic properties are real and time-tested. For millennia, humans have turned to honey, not just for sweetness, but for healing, and science continues to uncover why it works. Bees are essential pollinators for many of the crops we depend on. The relationship between bees and agriculture runs deep. Approximately 1/3 of the food we eat depends on pollinators, and honeybees are among the most important. They pollinate almonds, apples, blueberries, cherries, cucumbers, melons, and countless other fruits and vegetables. Without bees, these crops would produce little or no fruit. Farmers often rent beehives and place them in orchards and fields during bloom, ensuring adequate pollination. A single hive can pollinate millions of blossoms in a season. The bees do not intend to help the plants. They are simply collecting nectar and pollen for themselves. But in doing so, they transfer pollen from flower to flower, enabling fertilization and fruit development. This mutualistic relationship has evolved over millions of years. Flowers produce nectar to attract bees. Bees visit flowers to gather food. Both benefit. The plants reproduce and the bees eat. Humans have learned to harness this relationship, moving bees to where they are needed most. But the partnership is fragile. Pesticides, habitat loss, disease, and climate change all threaten bee populations. When bees struggle, so do the crops that depend on them. Protecting bees is not just about honey. It is about food security, biodiversity, and the intricate web of life that sustains us all. Honey crystallizes naturally, and this does not mean it has gone bad. If you have ever opened a jar of honey and found it thick, grainy, and opaque, you might have wondered if something was wrong. In fact, crystallization is a natural process and a sign of pure, raw honey. Honey is a supersaturated solution of sugars, primarily glucose and fructose. Over time, glucose molecules begin to separate from the liquid and form crystals. This happens faster in cooler temperatures and in honeys with higher glucose content. Some honeys, like clover and alfalfa, crystallize quickly. Others, like acacia and tupelo, remain liquid for much longer. Crystallization does not affect the quality, flavor, or nutritional value of honey. It is simply a change in texture. If you prefer liquid honey, you can gently warm the jar in a bowl of warm water, stirring occasionally until the crystals dissolve. Avoid microwaving or boiling honey, as high heat can destroy some of its beneficial enzymes and alter its flavor. Some people actually prefer crystallized honey. It spreads more easily, does not drip, and has a smooth, creamy texture. In some regions, crystallized honey is whipped to create a fine, spreadable consistency called creamed honey. Whether liquid or crystallized, honey remains honey, golden and sweet, waiting patiently to be enjoyed. The queen bee is the heart of the hive and can live for several years. In the heart of every colony is a single bee larger than the rest, the queen. She is the mother of nearly every bee in the hive, the origin of the family. The queen's life is unlike any other bee's. She is born from a specially chosen larva, fed an exclusive diet of royal jelly, a nutrient-rich secretion produced by worker bees. This diet triggers her development into a fully fertile female, capable of laying up to 2,000 eggs per day. The queen mates only once in her life, during a brief mating flight shortly after emerging from her cell. She flies high into the air, pursued by drones from surrounding hives. She mates with multiple drones, storing their sperm in a special organ called the spermatheca. This stored sperm will last her entire life, allowing her to fertilize eggs for years. Once she returns to the hive, she rarely leaves again, spending her days moving through the comb, laying eggs in empty cells. The workers feed her, groom her, and attend to her needs. She releases pheromones that regulate the behavior and unity of the hive. If the queen is healthy, the colony is calm and productive. If she dies or her pheromones weaken, the workers sense it immediately and begin raising a new queen. A queen can live for 3 to 5 years, far longer than the workers, who live only weeks in summer. She is both fragile and essential, a singular being whose presence holds the hive together. Bees produce beeswax by secreting it from glands in their abdomen. The comb inside a hive is made of beeswax, a substance produced by the bees themselves. Young worker bees, typically between 12 and 18 days old, secrete wax from 8 special glands on the underside of their abdomen. The wax emerges as tiny flakes, thin and translucent. The bees chew these flakes, mixing them with saliva and enzymes, softening the wax and making it pliable. Then they shape it into the hexagonal cells that form the comb. This hexagonal structure is remarkably efficient. It uses the least amount of wax to create the maximum storage space, and the shape distributes weight evenly, making the comb strong despite being lightweight. Producing wax is costly for the bees. They must consume large amounts of honey to fuel the process, roughly 8 pounds of honey for every pound of wax. This is why bees only build new comb when necessary, preferring to reuse existing cells whenever possible. Humans have found many uses for beeswax over the centuries. It has been molded into candles, providing clean, bright light. It has been used in cosmetics, polishes, and salves. Artists have used it in encaustic painting, mixing pigments with molten wax to create luminous, textured works. Even today, beeswax remains valued for its purity and versatility. It is a byproduct of the hive's construction, yet another gift from the bees. Honey contains trace amounts of vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. While honey is primarily sugar, it is not empty calories. Depending on its floral source, honey contains small amounts of vitamins and minerals, including B vitamins, vitamin C, calcium, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, and zinc. The quantities are modest, but they add up. Honey also contains antioxidants, compounds that help protect cells from damage caused by free radicals. Darker honeys, like buckwheat and forest honey, tend to have higher antioxidant levels than lighter varieties. These antioxidants include flavonoids and phenolic acids, which have been linked to reduced inflammation and improved heart health. Honey also contains trace amounts of pollen, enzymes, and organic acids, all contributing to its complex nutritional profile. It is important to note that honey is still a sugar and should be consumed in moderation. But compared to refined white sugar, which offers nothing beyond sweetness, honey provides a bit more. It is a whole food, minimally processed, carrying within it the essence of the flowers and the work of the bees. When you choose honey, you are choosing something closer to nature, something with depth and character, something that nourishes in small, subtle ways. Propolis is a resinous substance bees use to seal and protect the hive. In addition to honey and wax, bees produce another remarkable substance called propolis. Forager bees collect sticky resins from the buds and bark of trees, particularly conifers and poplars. They carry this resin back to the hive in their pollen baskets, where it is mixed with beeswax, saliva, and enzymes. The result is propolis, a versatile material the bees use as a sealant, a disinfectant, and a structural reinforcement. Bees apply propolis to cracks and gaps in the hive, weatherproofing it against wind and rain. They coat the interior surfaces with a thin layer, creating an antimicrobial environment that protects against bacteria, fungi, and viruses. If a predator such as a mouse enters the hive and is killed by the bees, but is too large to remove, they will encase it in propolis, mummifying it to prevent decay and contamination. The word propolis comes from Greek, meaning before the city, referring to its use at the hive entrance as a defensive barrier. Humans have recognized the value of propolis for centuries. It has been used in traditional medicine to treat wounds, sore throats, and infections. Modern research has confirmed its antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, and anti-inflammatory properties. Propolis is now found in health supplements, lozenges, ointments, and toothpaste. Like honey and wax, it is another gift from the hive, another example of the bee's ingenuity and resourcefulness. Bees have been producing honey for over 100 million years. Long before humans walked the earth, bees were already perfecting the art of making honey. Fossil evidence suggests that bees evolved around 100 million years ago, during the Cretaceous period, alongside the rise of flowering plants. This was a time when dinosaurs still roamed, when the continents were arranged differently, and when the climate was warm and lush. The relationship between bees and flowers developed through coevolution. As plants developed blossoms to attract pollinators, bees evolved specialized structures to collect nectar and pollen. Their bodies became covered in branched hairs that trap pollen. Their mouthparts elongated to reach deep into flowers. Their behavior became increasingly sophisticated, learning to communicate, navigate, and cooperate. Over millions of years, bees refined the process of transforming nectar into honey, a concentrated food source that allowed colonies to survive seasons when flowers were not blooming. This ancient lineage means that the honey we eat today is fundamentally the same as honey made millions of years ago. The bees follow the same instincts, perform the same dances, build the same hexagonal combs. Honey is a link to the deep past, a taste of an ancient world carried forward unchanged through the ages. The color of honey can range from nearly clear to dark brown. Honey's appearance is as varied as the flowers that produce it. Some honeys are so pale they are almost transparent, like acacia or clover honey. Others are medium amber, like wildflower or orange blossom. Still others are deep, rich brown, like buckwheat or chestnut honey. The color is determined by the floral source, the mineral content of the nectar, and how long the honey has been stored. Generally, lighter honeys have a milder flavor, while darker honeys are more robust and intense. But this is not a strict rule. Each honey is unique, shaped by the specific plants, soil, weather, and bees that created it. When you hold a jar of honey up to the light, you are looking at a spectrum of possibility. You are seeing sunlight filtered through petals, transformed by bees, and captured in liquid form. The color tells a story. It speaks of meadows or forests, of spring or summer, of abundance or scarcity. No two batches are identical, and that is part of honey's charm. It is a natural product, shaped by the rhythms of the earth, never standardized, always surprising. Bees maintain the hive temperature with remarkable precision. Inside a beehive, the temperature must remain stable, especially in the brood area where larvae are developing. Bees keep this area at a consistent 93 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit, regardless of the outside weather. In hot weather, they cool the hive through evaporative cooling, bringing in water and spreading it across the comb. Then they fan their wings rapidly, creating airflow that evaporates the water and lowers the temperature. Thousands of bees working together can cool a hive even on the hottest summer days. In cold weather, they generate heat by vibrating their flight muscles without actually flying, a process called thermogenesis. They cluster tightly around the queen and the brood, forming a living blanket. The bees on the outside of the cluster insulate those within, while those inside produce warmth. They rotate positions, so no bee stays on the cold outer edge for too long. This collective thermoregulation is essential for survival. If the brood gets too cold, development slows or stops. If it gets too hot, larvae can die. The bees sense temperature through their bodies and respond instinctively, adjusting their behavior to maintain the delicate balance. It is a feat of biological engineering, accomplished without tools, without technology, only the coordinated effort of thousands of tiny bodies working as one. Honey was once used as currency in some ancient cultures. In times and places where honey was abundant, it became a valuable commodity, traded and sometimes even used as a form of payment. Ancient Egyptians paid their workers in bread, beer, and honey. In medieval Europe, honey was so prized that it was often part of feudal taxes and tributes. Monasteries, which kept bees, traded honey and beeswax for other goods. In some regions, honey was used in barter systems, exchanged for grain, cloth, or livestock. Its value stemmed from its rarity and utility. Honey was not just food. It was medicine, a preservative, a sweetener, in a time when sugar was unknown or prohibitively expensive. It could be stored for years without spoiling, making it a reliable store of value. In societies without coinage or with limited access to precious metals, tangible goods like honey became mediums of exchange. This economic role highlights how deeply honey was woven into human life. It was not a luxury, but a necessity, something worth working for, trading for, and protecting. Even today, in some parts of the world, wild honey harvested from forests is sold for significant sums, supporting livelihoods and preserving traditions. Manuka honey from New Zealand is prized for its unique antibacterial properties. Among the hundreds of honey varieties, Manuka honey stands out for its exceptional medicinal qualities. It is produced by bees that forage on the Manuka bush, a shrub native to New Zealand and parts of Australia. What makes Manuka honey unique is its high concentration of methyl glyoxal, a compound with powerful antibacterial effects. While all honey has some antimicrobial properties, Manuka honey's levels are significantly higher. This makes it particularly effective in treating wounds, burns, and infections. Medical-grade Manuka honey is used in hospitals, applied to surgical wounds, diabetic ulcers, and other injuries that are difficult to heal. It can kill bacteria that have developed resistance to antibiotics, including MRSA. The honey is graded using a UMF, unique Manuka factor, rating system, which measures the concentration of key compounds. Higher UMF ratings indicate stronger antibacterial activity. Because of its potency and rarity, Manuka honey is expensive, sometimes costing many times more than regular honey. It has become a global commodity, exported worldwide, and subject to strict quality controls to prevent counterfeiting. For those seeking honey with proven therapeutic benefits, Manuka honey represents the pinnacle, a testament to how specific plants and specific bees can create something truly extraordinary. Bees are capable of recognizing human faces. In a surprising demonstration of their intelligence, researchers have found that honeybees can learn to recognize human faces. In controlled experiments, bees were trained to associate specific facial features with rewards, such as sugar water. Over time, they learned to distinguish between different faces, even when the images were rotated or altered slightly. This ability is remarkable considering that bees have relatively simple brains, containing fewer than 1 million neurons compared to the billions in a human brain. Yet, they can process complex visual information, identify patterns, and remember them over time. The ability likely evolved to help bees recognize flowers, landmarks, and hive mates, but it demonstrates a level of cognitive flexibility that scientists are still working to fully understand. Bees do not see faces the way humans do. Their vision is different, sensitive to ultraviolet light and less attuned to red. But they can detect contrasts, shapes, and arrangements well enough to tell one face from another. This discovery has implications beyond bees. It shows that sophisticated recognition abilities can emerge from simple neural structures, offering insights into artificial intelligence and pattern recognition. It also reminds us that bees, despite their size, are capable of learning and memory in ways that continue to surprise us. Honeycomb is built with mathematical precision. The hexagonal structure of honeycomb has fascinated mathematicians and scientists for centuries. Why hexagons? Why not circles, squares, or triangles? The answer lies in efficiency. Hexagons tile perfectly, covering a surface without gaps or overlaps. They use less wax than other shapes to enclose the same area, and they distribute structural stress evenly, creating a strong yet lightweight framework. Bees do not consciously calculate these advantages. They build hexagons instinctively, guided by the physics of the wax and the mechanics of their bodies. When a bee constructs a cell, she shapes the soft wax with her mandibles and front legs, working in circular motions. The heat generated by the cluster softens the wax, and surface tension naturally pulls it into the hexagonal shape, especially when multiple cells are built side by side. The result is a structure so elegant that engineers study it for inspiration. Honeycomb has been used as a model for designing lightweight, strong materials in aerospace, construction, and packaging. Its efficiency is unmatched. The bees, without blueprints or tools, create architecture that humans admire and emulate. In the geometry of the hive, nature reveals one of its most beautiful secrets, the hidden order that underlies even the smallest things. Honey can help soothe a sore throat and suppress coughs. When a cold or cough strikes, many people reach for honey as a natural remedy, and there is good reason for this. Honey coats the throat, providing a soothing layer that reduces irritation and the urge to cough. Its thick consistency helps it cling to mucous membranes, offering prolonged relief. Studies have shown that honey is as effective, and sometimes more effective, than over-the-counter cough suppressants, particularly for children. In one study, a spoonful of honey before bed reduced nighttime coughing and improved sleep quality better than a placebo or no treatment at all. The antimicrobial properties of honey may also help fight the underlying infection, though its primary benefit for coughs is mechanical and soothing rather than curative. Honey is safe for most people, but it should never be given to infants under 1 year old due to the risk of botulism spores, which their immature digestive systems cannot handle. For older children and adults, a spoonful of honey in warm water or tea, or simply eaten straight, can provide gentle, natural relief. It is a remedy that has been passed down through generations, and modern science has confirmed what folk wisdom always knew. Honey helps. It comforts. It heals in small, sweet ways. Bees sleep, though not in the way humans do. It may seem strange to think of bees sleeping, but they do rest. Researchers have observed bees becoming motionless, their antennae drooping, their bodies still. In this state, they are less responsive to external stimuli, and their metabolic rate drops. This is sleep, or at least a sleep-like state. Younger bees, who work inside the hive, tend to sleep in short bursts, scattered throughout the day and night. Forager bees, who have more regular schedules tied to daylight and flower availability, sleep more at night. Interestingly, foragers also appear to experience something akin to sleep deprivation. If prevented from resting, their ability to perform the waggle dance becomes impaired, their movements less precise, just as a sleep-deprived human might struggle with complex tasks. Some scientists believe bees may even dream, though this remains speculative. What is clear is that sleep, or rest, is essential for bees, just as it is for other animals. It allows their nervous systems to recover, consolidates memories, and prepares them for the next day's work. The idea of a sleeping bee is oddly comforting. Even these tireless workers need to rest, to pause, to let go of activity and drift into stillness. It is a reminder that rest is not weakness, but necessity, built into the rhythm of life. Honey can absorb moisture from the air due to its hygroscopic nature. Honey is hygroscopic, meaning it attracts and absorbs moisture from its surroundings. This property is one reason honey is effective in skincare products. It helps keep skin hydrated by drawing moisture from the air. However, this same quality means that honey must be stored properly. If left uncovered in a humid environment, honey will absorb water from the air, which can increase its moisture content beyond the safe threshold and allow fermentation to occur. This is why honey is best kept in tightly sealed jars. The hygroscopic nature of honey also explains why baked goods made with honey stay moist longer than those made with sugar alone. The honey continues to pull moisture from the air, keeping cakes and breads soft and tender. In very dry climates, however, honey may actually release moisture, becoming thicker over time. Its behavior changes with the environment, responding to humidity and temperature in ways that pure sugar does not. This dynamic quality is part of what makes honey such a versatile ingredient. It is not inert. It interacts with its surroundings, adapting and changing, always influenced by the conditions around it. Like the bees that made it, honey is alive in its own way, responsive and resilient. Bees are capable of counting and understanding the concept of zero. In recent years, researchers have discovered that bees possess surprising mathematical abilities. In controlled experiments, bees were trained to fly through a series of obstacles and choose between pathways marked with different numbers of shapes. Over time, they learned to select the path with fewer shapes, demonstrating an understanding of quantity. More astonishingly, they could also be taught to recognize zero, the absence of shapes, as a quantity smaller than one. This understanding of zero is rare in the animal kingdom, shared by only a few species like primates and some birds. The ability to count and comprehend abstract concepts like zero suggests that bees process information in sophisticated ways despite their tiny brains. They use these skills in the wild when assessing flowers, remembering locations, and making decisions about foraging routes. Their mathematical abilities are not just curiosities. They are practical tools that enhance survival. The discovery challenges assumptions about intelligence and cognition. It shows that complex thinking does not require large brains, only efficient ones. Bees, with their compact neural networks, have evolved cognitive abilities that rival those of much larger animals. It is a testament to the power of evolution to find ingenious solutions within the smallest of creatures. Honey can be used as a natural preservative for fruits and meats. Before refrigeration, honey was used to preserve food, extending its shelf life by months or even years. Fruits submerged in honey would remain edible long after they would otherwise have spoiled. Meats coated or packed in honey resisted bacterial growth and remained safe to eat. This preservation ability comes from honey's antimicrobial properties, its low moisture content, and high sugar concentration, all of which create an inhospitable environment for bacteria and mold. Ancient civilizations relied on this. The Greeks preserved quinces in honey. The Romans did the same, with various fruits and even some vegetables. In medieval Europe, honey was used to preserve ginger and other imported spices. In some cultures, honey was part of the embalming process, helping to preserve bodies, though this was reserved for the wealthy and revered. Today, with modern preservation methods, honey is less commonly used this way, but it remains an option for those seeking natural, chemical-free food storage. Dried fruits can be stored in honey, creating a sweet, shelf-stable snack. Nuts can be coated in honey to extend freshness. The practice may be ancient, but it is still effective, a reminder that nature provided solutions to human problems long before industry and technology arrived. The taste of honey can vary even within the same hive. A single hive does not produce uniform honey throughout the year. As the seasons change, so do the flowers. In spring, a hive may forage primarily on fruit tree blossoms, producing light, delicate honey. By summer, the bees might be visiting wildflowers, resulting in a darker, richer honey. In late summer, depending on the region, they might gather nectar from goldenrod, heather, or other plants, each adding its own character. Beekeepers who harvest honey multiple times a year will notice these differences. The spring harvest tastes different from the fall harvest, even though it comes from the same bees in the same location. This variability is part of honey's appeal. It is a snapshot of a particular time and place, a flavor that cannot be exactly replicated. Even jars from the same hive, extracted weeks apart, can tell different stories. This natural variation stands in contrast to mass-produced foods designed for consistency. Honey resists standardization. It remains wild, shaped by forces beyond human control, by weather and blooms and the choices of countless bees. Each jar is a small mystery, a taste to be discovered and savored. Bees have 5 eyes, 3 simple and 2 compound. A bee's vision is unlike our own. Humans have 2 eyes, but a bee has 5. On the top of its head are 3 small, simple eyes, called ocelli. These do not form detailed images but detect light levels and help the bee orient itself, particularly in flight. They are sensitive to rapid changes in brightness, aiding navigation. The 2 large compound eyes, positioned on either side of the head, are composed of thousands of tiny lenses called ommatidia. Each lens captures a fragment of the visual field, and the bee's brain assembles these fragments into a mosaic image. This allows bees to detect motion extremely well, which is useful for avoiding predators and navigating through flowers. Bees see differently than humans. They are sensitive to ultraviolet light, which reveals patterns on flowers invisible to us. Many blossoms have ultraviolet markings that act as landing guides, directing bees to nectar. Bees do not see red very well. To them, red appears dark or black, which is why many flowers pollinated by bees are yellow, blue, or purple. Their vision is adapted for their needs, tuned to the colors and patterns of the natural world they inhabit. To see through a bee's eyes would be to glimpse a world transformed, where flowers glow with hidden signals and the sky pulses with ultraviolet light. It is a reminder that reality is not singular, but shaped by the senses that perceive it. Honey is mentioned in religious and mythological texts across many cultures. Honey appears in sacred writings and myths from around the world, often symbolizing abundance, purity, and divine favor. In the Hebrew Bible, the Promised Land is described as a land flowing with milk and honey, an image of prosperity and blessing. In Hinduism, honey is one of the 5 sacred foods used in rituals, considered a gift from the gods. In ancient Greek mythology, honey was the food of the gods before the arrival of ambrosia, and bees were sacred to many deities, including Demeter and Artemis. The ancient Egyptians offered honey to their gods and used it in embalming. In Norse mythology, the mead of poetry, made from honey, granted wisdom and eloquence to those who drank it. In Islamic tradition, honey is mentioned in the Quran as a healing substance, a drink of paradise, and something pure and beneficial. Across these traditions, honey is more than food. It is spiritual nourishment, a symbol of what is good and sweet in life, a bridge between the earthly and the divine. These associations are not arbitrary. They arise from honey's rarity, its golden beauty, its healing properties, and the mysterious, almost magical process by which bees create it. Honey has always been more than itself, carrying meanings and stories that resonate across cultures and centuries. Bees have a strong sense of smell that helps them find flowers and identify hive mates. A bee's world is filled with scent. Their antennae are covered with thousands of olfactory receptors, allowing them to detect a vast array of odors. This sense of smell is essential for survival. Bees use it to locate flowers, following scent trails carried on the wind. Each type of flower has a distinct fragrance, and bees learn to associate these scents with the presence of nectar. They can remember dozens of different floral scents and prioritize those that offer the best rewards. Inside the hive, scent is equally important. Every colony has a unique odor, a chemical signature created by pheromones produced by the queen and workers. This scent allows bees to recognize their hive mates and identify intruders. Guard bees, stationed at the entrance, sniff every returning bee, checking for the correct scent before allowing entry. If a bee from another hive tries to sneak in, the guards detect the foreign smell and attack. Bees also use scent to communicate. When a bee finds a rich source of nectar, she can mark it with a scent from her Nasonov gland, helping other foragers locate it more easily. The queen's pheromones regulate the behavior and mood of the entire colony, keeping workers calm and cohesive. In a sense, the hive is held together by scent, an invisible network of chemical signals that organize and inform every aspect of bee life. Honey has been found in shipwrecks and excavation sites, still perfectly preserved. One of the most famous examples of honey's longevity comes from shipwrecks. In some cases, jars of honey recovered from ancient sunken vessels have been found intact and unspoiled, despite being submerged for centuries. The honey, sealed away from air and moisture, remained stable, a testament to its incredible durability. Similarly, honey has been discovered in archaeological digs, in tombs, storage rooms, and temples, still recognizable after thousands of years. While it may have darkened or crystallized, the fundamental structure remains unchanged. This preservation is not a miracle, but a result of honey's chemical properties. In the absence of water, and with its natural antimicrobial compounds, honey simply does not decay. It waits, patient and enduring, unaffected by time. These discoveries fascinate archaeologists and food scientists alike. They reveal not only honey's stability, but also the importance it held in ancient societies. People chose to store honey, to bury it with the dead, to carry it on long voyages. They trusted it to last, and it did. In a world where so much is temporary and fragile, honey stands as something almost eternal, a food that defies the passage of time. Bees use propolis to mummify intruders they cannot remove from the hive. Occasionally, a creature too large for the bees to carry out, such as a mouse or a lizard, manages to enter the hive and is killed by the defending bees. The problem is, the intruder's body could rot, spreading disease throughout the colony. To prevent this, the bees encase the carcass entirely in propolis, sealing it off from the environment. This process, called mummification, prevents decay and eliminates the threat. The body becomes a hardened, sterile object, no longer a source of contamination. Researchers have examined these propolis-coated remains and found them remarkably well preserved, free of bacterial growth. It is a clever solution to a difficult problem, one that shows the bees' ability to adapt their resources to unexpected challenges. Propolis, which normally serves as a sealant and disinfectant, becomes a burial shroud, transforming danger into inert matter. The strategy is both pragmatic and resourceful, a small but striking example of how bees manage the complex microbial environment of the hive. Even in death, the invader is neutralized, its threat contained by the golden resin of the bees. Bees are sensitive to vibrations and use them to communicate. Sound travels through the hive, not as we hear it, but as vibrations. Bees do not have ears in the way mammals do, but they are highly sensitive to vibrations transmitted through the comb and the air. These vibrations carry information. When a bee performs the waggle dance, the movements create vibrations that nearby bees can sense through their legs and antennae. The queen also produces vibrations, emitting sounds known as piping or quacking, especially when a new queen is about to emerge. These sounds communicate her presence and readiness. Workers can feel these vibrations throughout the hive, and they respond accordingly, sometimes preventing rival queens from emerging or preparing for swarming. Bees also use stop signals, brief vibrational pulses that tell a dancing bee to halt. This can occur if the food source she is advertising has become depleted or dangerous. The vibrations are a rapid, efficient form of communication, passing through the dense mass of bees and comb faster than scent or visual signals could. In the darkness of the hive, vibrations create a web of information, allowing coordination and collective decision-making. It is a language felt rather than heard, subtle but powerful, binding the colony together through waves of motion. Honey was used to make mead, one of the oldest alcoholic beverages. Mead, sometimes called honey wine, is made by fermenting honey with water and often includes spices, fruits, or herbs. It is one of humanity's oldest alcoholic drinks, with evidence of mead production dating back thousands of years. Pottery vessels from ancient China show traces of a fermented beverage made with honey, rice, and fruit, dating to around 7000 BC. In Europe, mead was popular among the Vikings, Celts, and Anglo-Saxons, often consumed during feasts and celebrations. The term honeymoon is believed to originate from the tradition of newlyweds drinking mead for a month, a lunar cycle, after marriage, symbolizing sweetness and fertility. Mead can range from dry to sweet, still or sparkling, light or strong, depending on the ratio of honey to water and the fermentation process. Some meads are simple, showcasing the pure flavor of honey. Others are complex, infused with spices like cinnamon and clove, or fruits like berries and apples. In recent years, mead has experienced a revival, with craft meaderies producing innovative varieties. It remains a link to the past, a drink that carries the taste of ancient celebrations, brewed from the same golden substance that has sweetened human life for millennia. Bees can fly at speeds of up to 15 miles per hour. When a bee leaves the hive in search of flowers, she does not meander. She flies with purpose, wings beating rapidly at around 200 beats per second. A forager bee can reach speeds of up to 15 miles per hour, though she typically cruises at a more moderate pace to conserve energy. Despite her small size, she can travel several miles from the hive, navigating across fields, forests, and even urban landscapes. Her flight is powered by strong flight muscles that make up a significant portion of her body mass. Bees are not built for speed the way a falcon or a hummingbird is, but for endurance and efficiency. They need to make multiple trips each day, carrying loads of nectar or pollen that can equal their own body weight. The mechanics of bee flight were once a source of scientific confusion. Early calculations suggested that bees should not be able to fly at all, based on their wing size and body mass. Later research revealed that bees achieve flight through rapid, short-amplitude wing strokes that create vortices, generating lift in ways that differ from conventional aerodynamics. Their flight is a marvel of biological engineering, a testament to evolution's ability to solve problems in unconventional ways. Every time a bee takes to the air, she defies expectations. A tiny aviator, navigating the world with grace and determination. Honey can be used in skincare for its moisturizing and healing properties. Honey's benefits extend beyond the kitchen. For centuries, it has been used in cosmetics and skincare. Cleopatra is said to have bathed in milk and honey to keep her skin soft and youthful. Today, honey appears in soaps, lotions, masks, and creams, valued for its natural humectant properties. A humectant draws moisture from the air and retains it, keeping skin hydrated. Honey also has anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial qualities, making it useful for treating acne, minor wounds, and irritations. A simple honey mask, applied to the face and left for 10 to 15 minutes before rinsing, can leave skin feeling smooth and refreshed. Honey can also soothe sunburns, reduce redness, and support healing. Its antioxidants help combat signs of aging, protecting skin from environmental damage. Because honey is natural and gentle, it is suitable for most skin types, though those with pollen allergies should use caution. The beauty industry has embraced honey, but the simplest applications often come from home. A jar of raw honey can be as effective as expensive treatments. A reminder that some of the best remedies are the oldest ones. Nature, through the work of bees, provides what we need, if we are willing to reach for it. The hexagonal cells in honeycomb can hold 25 times their own weight. The strength of honeycomb lies in its geometry. Each hexagonal cell, thin-walled and delicate, can support a load far exceeding its own weight. The structure distributes stress evenly across the walls, preventing any single point from bearing too much pressure. This allows the comb to hold heavy stores of honey, sometimes weighing many pounds, without collapsing. Engineers have long admired this efficiency. Honeycomb panels, inspired by the hive, are used in aircraft, spacecraft, and buildings, providing strength without adding excessive weight. The principle is the same. Distribute the load, minimize material, maximize performance. Bees, working only with wax and instinct, have created a design that humans study and replicate. The comb is both fragile and resilient, light, yet capable of bearing great burdens. It is a structure in balance, a perfect harmony of form and function, built cell by creatures no bigger than a thumbprint. Bees are more active in warm, sunny weather. A hive's activity fluctuates with the weather. On warm, sunny days, the entrance bustles with bees coming and going. Foragers take flight, navigating to flowers that bloom under the sun's warmth. Cold, rainy, or windy weather keeps bees inside, where they cluster for warmth and wait for better conditions. Bees cannot fly well in heavy rain. Their small bodies and delicate wings are easily weighed down by water. Strong winds also make navigation difficult and dangerous. In early spring, when temperatures begin to rise, the first warm days bring a surge of activity. Bees emerge to forage on the earliest blossoms, crocuses, willows, and maples. These early flights are vital, replenishing the hive's food stores after a long winter. As summer arrives and flowers are abundant, the hive reaches peak productivity, with thousands of bees in constant motion. In late fall, as temperatures drop and flowers fade, activity slows. The bees prepare for winter, clustering together to survive the cold months ahead. This rhythm, tied to the sun and the seasons, has repeated for millions of years. Bees live by the weather, responsive to the shifting moods of the sky, their lives intertwined with the pulse of the natural world. Honey's antibacterial properties come partly from its production of hydrogen peroxide. One of the key reasons honey resists bacterial growth is its slow, steady production of hydrogen peroxide. When bees process nectar, they add an enzyme called glucose oxidase. This enzyme reacts with glucose and oxygen in the honey, producing gluconic acid and, as a byproduct, hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide is a well-known disinfectant, and its presence in honey, though in small amounts, contributes to honey's antimicrobial effects. The production is gradual and continuous, providing a sustained defensive barrier. This is one reason why honey is effective when applied to wounds. The hydrogen peroxide helps kill bacteria without the harshness of synthetic antiseptics. Interestingly, the antibacterial potency of honey varies depending on the floral source and the concentration of the enzyme. Some honeys, like Manuka, have additional compounds that amplify their antibacterial properties. But even common honeys possess this gentle, natural disinfectant quality. It is another layer of honey's protective chemistry, another reason why bees have relied on it for millions of years to safeguard their colonies, and why humans have used it to heal. Bees collect pollen in specialized baskets on their hind legs. When a bee lands on a flower, pollen grains stick to the branched hairs covering her body. As she moves from flower to flower, some of this pollen is transferred, enabling pollination. But bees also collect pollen intentionally as food for the hive. Using her front and middle legs, she grooms the pollen from her body and packs it into specialized structures on her hind legs called pollen baskets or corbiculae. These are smooth, concave areas fringed with stiff hairs. The bee moistens the pollen with a bit of nectar or saliva, forming it into compact pellets. By the time she returns to the hive, she carries 2 bright, visible pollen loads, one on each hind leg. The color of the pollen varies depending on the flower: yellow, orange, red, purple, even blue or green. Inside the hive, the pollen is stored in cells, sometimes mixed with honey and enzymes to create bee bread, a fermented protein-rich food that nourishes larvae and young bees. Watching a bee land with full pollen baskets is a small wonder. She is weighted down, her flight slightly slower, yet she continues her journey, carrying this vital cargo back to the colony. It is a visible reminder of the work bees do, not only for themselves, but for the ecosystems they support. Honey can vary in moisture content, affecting its texture and shelf life. The moisture content of honey is critical. Bees carefully evaporate water from the nectar until it reaches around 18% moisture or less. At this level, honey is stable and will not ferment. If moisture content exceeds 20%, the honey becomes more susceptible to fermentation, as naturally occurring yeasts can become active. Fermentation produces alcohol and carbon dioxide, altering the flavor and texture, sometimes causing the honey to bubble or develop an off taste. Beekeepers monitor moisture levels before harvesting, using tools called refractometers to measure the percentage. Honey harvested too early, before it is fully capped, may have too much moisture and require dehumidification before bottling. Properly ripened honey, sealed by the bees, can last indefinitely. The moisture content also affects texture. Drier honeys tend to crystallize faster, while those with slightly higher moisture remain liquid longer. This balance, achieved through the bees' diligent fanning and capping, is essential. It is another example of the precision with which bees work, managing invisible thresholds that determine whether their food stores will survive the winter. Honey is not simply made. It is perfected, drop by drop, until it reaches the exact consistency needed to endure. Bees can see polarized light, aiding navigation. Polarized light is light that vibrates in a single plane, rather than in all directions. Humans cannot perceive it, but bees can. This ability helps them navigate, even on cloudy days when the sun is not directly visible. Polarized light patterns in the sky shift throughout the day, providing a kind of celestial compass. Bees use these patterns to orient themselves, determining direction and maintaining a straight flight path. This is especially useful when the sun is obscured by clouds or when flying through dense vegetation. Specialized photoreceptors in the bee's eyes detect the polarization, and the bee's brain interprets this information along with visual landmarks and scent cues. It is part of the multi-layered navigation system that allows bees to travel miles from the hive and return reliably. To see as a bee sees would be to perceive the sky not as a featureless expanse, but as a map of shifting light, a guide written in invisible lines. It is another reminder of how different sensory worlds can be, how what seems empty or uniform to one creature is rich with information to another. Honeybees originated in Africa and spread across the world. The ancestral home of the honeybee is believed to be Africa, where the earliest species evolved millions of years ago. From there, bees migrated, adapting to different climates and environments. They spread into Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, diversifying into various subspecies, each suited to local conditions. European honeybees, Apis mellifera, were later brought to the Americas, Australia, and other regions by European colonists. These bees established themselves in new lands, sometimes thriving, sometimes interbreeding with imported subspecies. Today, honeybees are found on every continent except Antarctica. They are among the most widespread insects, testament to their adaptability and the value humans place on them. Each region has developed distinct strains of bees, shaped by climate, available forage, and selective breeding. Italian bees are known for being gentle and productive. Russian bees are hardy and disease-resistant. Carniolan bees are docile and excellent for early spring buildup. This global journey of the honeybee, from African origins to worldwide distribution, mirrors the story of human agriculture and trade, a partnership that has shaped landscapes and sustained civilizations. Wherever humans have gone, they have often brought bees, planting them like seeds, knowing they would help gardens grow. Honey can ferment if its moisture content is too high. Under the right conditions, honey can ferment, transforming from a stable food into something entirely different. If honey has a moisture content above 20%, naturally occurring yeasts present in the honey can become active. They consume sugars and produce alcohol and carbon dioxide. This is the same process used intentionally to make mead. But in uncontrolled fermentation, the result is usually undesirable. The honey may develop a sour or alcoholic taste, bubbles may form, and the texture becomes runny. Sometimes the jar bulges or even leaks. Fermented honey is generally safe to eat, though it may not taste pleasant. Some people enjoy the tangy complexity, but most consider it spoiled. To prevent fermentation, beekeepers ensure honey is properly ripened with low moisture content and stored in sealed containers. If honey does begin to ferment, it can sometimes be salvaged by gently heating it to kill the yeasts, though this may also reduce some of honey's beneficial enzymes. Fermentation is a reminder that honey, while stable, is still a living product, containing wild yeasts and microbes that can spring into action given the right conditions. It is nature refusing to be entirely tamed, a reminder that even honey, ancient and enduring, remains dynamic and alive. Bees are found on every continent except Antarctica. Bees have colonized almost the entire planet, from tropical rainforests to temperate meadows, from arid deserts to high mountain slopes. Bees have adapted to an extraordinary range of environments. There are over 20,000 known species of bees, and honeybees are just one group among many. Most bees are solitary, nesting alone in burrows, hollow stems, or crevices. Others are social, living in colonies of varying sizes. Some are specialized, pollinating only certain types of flowers. Others are generalists, visiting many species. Each habitat, each ecosystem, supports its own community of bees. The one place bees have not established is Antarctica, where the extreme cold and lack of flowering plants make survival impossible. Everywhere else, bees thrive, fulfilling their ancient role as pollinators, ensuring that flowers reproduce and ecosystems remain vibrant. The diversity of bees is staggering, and scientists are still discovering new species, especially in remote or underexplored regions. Yet, despite their abundance, bees face unprecedented challenges. Habitat loss, pesticides, diseases, and climate change threaten populations worldwide. The presence of bees is not guaranteed. They must be protected, valued, and given space to flourish. Their global reach is a testament to their resilience, but it is also a call to recognize their vulnerability and act accordingly. Honey's sweetness comes primarily from fructose and glucose. Honey tastes sweet because it is composed mostly of sugars, specifically fructose and glucose, which together make up about 70 to 80% of its content. Fructose is sweeter than table sugar, which is why honey often tastes more intensely sweet than an equivalent amount of sugar. The ratio of fructose to glucose varies depending on the floral source. Honeys higher in fructose, like acacia, tend to stay liquid longer and are sweeter. Those higher in glucose, like clover, crystallize faster and have a slightly milder sweetness. Besides fructose and glucose, honey contains trace amounts of other sugars like sucrose, maltose, and various oligosaccharides, adding subtle complexity to its flavor. But the primary sweetness, the sensation that makes honey so desirable, comes from those two simple sugars, delivered in perfect concentration, shaped by flowers and refined by bees. It is a sweetness earned through labor, through the transformation of nectar under the summer sun, and it carries with it the memory of blooms and the hum of wings. The practice of beekeeping dates back thousands of years. Humans have kept bees for at least 4,000 years, possibly longer. Ancient Egyptians practiced apiculture, keeping bees in cylindrical hives made of clay or woven reeds. They harvested honey and beeswax, using both in daily life, medicine, and religious rituals. Illustrations from Egyptian tombs show beekeepers using smoke to calm bees, a technique still used today. In ancient Greece and Rome, beekeeping was well established, with writers like Aristotle and Virgil documenting bee behavior and hive management. Medieval monasteries across Europe maintained apiaries, valuing honey as a sweetener and beeswax for candles used in worship. Beekeeping spread across continents, adapting to local conditions and traditions. In some cultures, bees were kept in hollowed logs or woven skeps. In others, clay pots or wooden boxes were used. The development of the movable frame hive in the mid-1800s revolutionized beekeeping, allowing easier inspection and honey extraction without destroying the comb. This innovation enabled modern commercial beekeeping and the pollination services that support large-scale agriculture today. Yet, despite these advances, the fundamental relationship remains the same. Humans provide shelter and care. Bees provide honey, wax, and pollination. It is a partnership built on mutual benefit, shaped by thousands of years of shared history. Honey reflects the health of the environment where bees forage. Because bees gather nectar from flowers, honey can serve as an indicator of environmental quality. If bees forage in areas free from pesticides and pollutants, their honey will be pure. If they forage near contaminated areas, traces of those contaminants can appear in the honey. Studies have found residues of agricultural chemicals, heavy metals, and pollutants in honey samples from certain regions. While the levels are usually low and considered safe for consumption, their presence reveals something about the surrounding landscape. Honey can also reflect the diversity of plant life. Honey from biodiverse areas, rich with wildflowers and varied vegetation, tends to be more complex in flavor and higher in beneficial compounds. Monoculture landscapes, dominated by a single crop, produce less varied honey. In this way, honey tells a story not just of bees, but of the land itself. It is a mirror, reflecting back the health, diversity, and practices of the environment. When you choose honey, especially local, raw honey from small beekeepers, you are tasting the place it came from. its fields and forests, its care or neglect. Honey connects you to a specific landscape, a specific moment in time, grounding sweetness in the real, tangible world. The life cycle of a worker bee varies by season. A bee's lifespan is shaped by when she is born and what the colony needs. In the bustling summer, when flowers are plentiful and work is constant, a worker bee may live only 5 to 6 weeks. She wears herself out, her wings tattered from endless flights, her body exhausted from labor. Winter bees, however, live much longer, sometimes 4 to 6 months. Born in late summer or fall, they do not forage. Instead, they cluster inside the hive, conserving energy and keeping the colony warm. Their bodies accumulate more fat stores, and they do not have the wear and tear of foraging. These winter bees are the ones who will survive until spring, when they can raise the next generation of workers. The queen, protected and attended, can live several years. Drones, whose only role is mating, live just a few months before being expelled from the hive as winter approaches. The colony is always in flux, lives beginning and ending in rhythms tied to the seasons. Each bee is temporary, but the hive endures, a continuity built on countless brief lives. Bees play a crucial role in global food security. Pollinators, especially bees, are essential to the production of many crops. Approximately 75% of the world's food crops benefit from animal pollination, and bees are the most important pollinators. Without them, yields of fruits, nuts, vegetables, and oilseeds would decline sharply. Some crops, like almonds, depend almost entirely on honeybee pollination. Others, like blueberries and cherries, produce far better when bees are present. The economic value of pollination services provided by bees is estimated at hundreds of billions of dollars annually worldwide. Beyond economics, bees support biodiversity. Many wild plants depend on pollinators to reproduce. When bee populations decline, plant diversity suffers, which affects herbivores, predators, and entire ecosystems. The decline of bees is not just an environmental issue. It is a food security issue, a matter of sustaining human populations and the natural systems we depend upon. Efforts to protect bees include reducing pesticide use, preserving habitats, planting pollinator-friendly flowers, and supporting beekeepers. Every garden planted with native flowers, every pesticide not sprayed, every hive maintained, contributes to the resilience of these vital creatures. Bees ask little from us. Only space, flowers, and care. In return, they offer abundance. Honeybees communicate danger through alarm pheromones. When a bee stings an intruder, she releases alarm pheromones from glands near the sting. These chemical signals smell distinctly like bananas or pear drops, a scent caused by compounds like isoamyl acetate. The pheromone alerts nearby bees to danger, triggering defensive behavior. Other bees rush to the site, ready to defend the colony. The pheromone can linger on clothing or skin, marking the threat and encouraging additional stings. This is why, if stung once, you may be stung again quickly. The chemical message spreads rapidly through the hive, mobilizing the defenders. It is a sophisticated alarm system, invisible but highly effective. For beekeepers, understanding these pheromones is crucial. They wear light-colored clothing, which seems less threatening to bees, and move slowly and calmly to avoid triggering aggression. Smoke is used to mask the alarm pheromones, calming the bees by disrupting their communication. The bees interpret smoke as a sign of fire and begin consuming honey in preparation to flee, which makes them less defensive. It is a delicate dance between human and insect, respect and caution, guiding each interaction. The alarm pheromone is not an act of malice, but of protection. A mother defending her children. a community standing guard over what it has built. The role of drones in the hive is brief but essential. Drones are the male bees, larger and bulkier than workers, with big eyes and no stinger. Their sole biological purpose is reproduction. They do not forage, do not build comb, do not care for larvae. They simply wait, fed by the worker bees, for the chance to mate with a queen. On warm afternoons, drones leave the hive and gather at drone congregation areas, places in the sky where queens fly to mate. Here, drones from many hives compete. A queen may mate with 10 to 20 drones during her flight, collecting sperm to last her lifetime. The act of mating is fatal for the drone. His reproductive organs are torn from his body, and he falls to the ground, dying shortly after. Those who do not mate return to the hive and continue waiting. But as autumn approaches and resources become scarce, the workers turn on the drones. They are dragged from the hive, denied food, and left to die. The colony cannot afford to feed non-working members through the winter. It is harsh, but necessary. Drones serve a vital genetic purpose, ensuring diversity and the health of future generations. Their lives are short, sometimes tragic, but they play their part in the continuation of the species. Without them, no new queens, no new colonies, no future. Bees produce different types of wax, depending on their age and diet. The quality and composition of beeswax can vary. Young bees produce the clearest, whitest wax. As they age, the wax they secrete becomes slightly darker. The diet of the bees also influences the wax. Bees fed on certain nectars or pollen may produce wax with slight color variations. Wax from brood comb, where larvae have been raised, darkens over time due to the accumulation of cocoons, debris, and propolis. This old wax is eventually removed by beekeepers and replaced with fresh foundation, encouraging the bees to build new, clean comb. Beeswax harvested from cappings, the wax seals over honey cells, is considered the purest and is highly prized. It is light in color, free from contaminants, and has a pleasant, sweet aroma. This wax is used for high-quality candles, cosmetics, and art. Beeswax candles burn cleanly, emitting a warm, natural light without the soot and chemicals of paraffin candles. The subtle honey scent adds to their appeal. Beeswax is also used in woodworking as a natural polish and sealant. It conditions leather, waterproofs, fabrics, and serves as a base for salves and balms. Like honey, beeswax is a versatile gift from the hive, valued for its purity, workability, and natural beauty. Bees have been studied for their ability to learn and remember. Scientists have conducted numerous experiments demonstrating that bees are capable of learning and memory, skills essential for their survival. In laboratory settings, bees can be trained to associate colors, shapes, or scents with rewards. They remember these associations and return to them repeatedly. In the wild, this translates to learning which flowers provide the best nectar, which landmarks lead back to the hive, and which times of day are most productive for foraging. Bees can even learn from other bees, observing the success of hive mates and adjusting their own behavior accordingly. This social learning enhances the efficiency of the colony as a whole. Memory is not permanent, however. Bees gradually forget information that is no longer relevant, allowing them to adapt to changing conditions. For instance, if a once reliable flower patch dries up, bees will eventually stop visiting it and seek new sources. This balance between memory and flexibility is key to their adaptability. Research into bee cognition has broader implications, shedding light on how simple neural systems can produce complex behaviors. It challenges assumptions about intelligence and consciousness, showing that sophisticated mental processes can emerge in creatures with brains vastly different from our own. Bees think, learn, and remember, navigating a complex world with skill and grace. Honey contains small amounts of bee pollen, adding nutritional value. When honey is extracted, especially through methods that do not involve fine filtering, it often contains traces of bee pollen. These tiny grains, packed with protein, vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, add nutritional richness to the honey. Bee pollen is considered a superfood by some, valued for its dense nutrient profile. While the amounts in honey are small, they contribute to its overall health benefits. Raw, unfiltered honey retains more pollen than highly processed honey, which is often heated and strained to create a clear, uniform product. This processing removes not only pollen, but also some enzymes and antioxidants. For those seeking the maximum nutritional benefit, raw honey is the better choice. It is cloudier, thicker, and may contain visible bits of pollen, wax, and propolis, but these imperfections are signs of authenticity. The pollen in honey can also cause allergic reactions in individuals sensitive to pollen. For this reason, some people avoid raw honey or consume it in small amounts to build tolerance. Interestingly, local honey, which contains pollen from nearby plants, is sometimes used as a folk remedy for seasonal allergies. The theory is that gradual exposure to local pollen through honey can reduce allergic responses. While scientific evidence for this is limited, many people swear by it. Whether or not it works, the presence of pollen connects honey even more deeply to the environment it comes from. Bees are affected by changes in climate and weather patterns. Climate change is altering the world in which bees live. Shifts in temperature, precipitation, and seasonal timing affect the availability of flowers and the behavior of bees. Warmer winters can disrupt the bees' natural cycle of dormancy, causing them to become active too early and deplete food stores before spring flowers bloom. Unpredictable weather, such as late frosts or prolonged droughts, can kill blossoms or reduce nectar production, leaving bees with less food. Some plant species are blooming earlier due to rising temperatures, but bees may not adjust their activity in sync, leading to a mismatch between pollinators and plants. This desynchronization can harm both. Extreme weather events, like floods, hurricanes, and heat waves, can destroy hives and habitats. Bees are resilient, but have limits. They can adapt to gradual changes, but rapid, drastic shifts challenge their survival. Beekeepers are noticing these impacts. Honey yields are becoming more variable. Colony losses are increasing in some regions. Certain areas that once supported thriving bee populations are becoming less hospitable. Climate change is not a distant threat, but a present reality for bees and the ecosystems they support. Addressing it requires global action, protecting habitats, reducing emissions, and supporting biodiversity. Bees, like many creatures, are indicators of the health of our world. When they struggle, it is a sign that the systems sustaining all life are under strain. Honey can be infused with herbs, spices, and other flavors. One of the joys of honey is its ability to absorb and carry other flavors. Infused honey is made by adding herbs, spices, or other ingredients to honey and allowing them to steep over time. Lavender honey, for instance, can be made by placing dried lavender buds in honey and letting them infuse for weeks. The result is a fragrant, floral honey, perfect for tea or desserts. Similarly, honey can be infused with rosemary, thyme, chili peppers, vanilla, cinnamon, ginger, or lemon. Some people infuse honey with garlic for a savory twist, creating a unique condiment for roasted meats or vegetables. The process is simple but requires patience. The ingredients release their flavors slowly, and the honey acts as a preservative, maintaining the essence of the additions. Infused honeys make thoughtful gifts and add variety to the kitchen. They can elevate ordinary dishes bringing complexity and depth. A drizzle of chili-infused honey over pizza, or lavender honey stirred into tea, transforms the familiar into something special. The tradition of flavoring honey is ancient. Medieval Europeans added spices to honey to create medicinal syrups. Modern chefs and home cooks continue this practice, experimenting with combinations that surprise and delight. Honey, already complex, becomes a canvas for creativity, a medium through which other flavors can shine. The waggle dance can communicate distances up to several miles. The precision of the waggle dance is remarkable. Bees can indicate food sources that are several miles away from the hive, translating distance into the duration and intensity of their movements. A short waggle indicates a nearby source. A longer, more vigorous waggle signals a distant one. The dance conveys not just distance, but also quality. If the food source is particularly rich, the bee dances more enthusiastically, performing more repetitions and recruiting more foragers. Other bees assess the dances of multiple foragers and decide which sources are worth visiting. This decision-making process is decentralized. No single bee directs the others. Instead, the collective evaluates the information and allocates labor accordingly. If many bees return with reports of a rich patch, more foragers head in that direction. If reports are poor, fewer bees invest their time. This system is efficient and flexible, allowing the colony to respond quickly to changing conditions. Researchers have decoded the waggle dance through careful observation and experimentation, mapping the dances to actual locations in the field. It is one of the clearest examples of animal communication, a language that conveys complex spatial information through abstract symbols. The fact that such a system evolved in insects with their tiny brains is a testament to the power of natural selection to solve problems in elegant, unexpected ways. Royal jelly is a special food that creates queens. Royal jelly is a creamy, nutrient-rich secretion produced by young worker bees. It is fed to all larvae for the first few days of life, but only future queens receive it exclusively and in abundance. This continuous diet of royal jelly triggers a developmental pathway that transforms an ordinary female larva into a queen. The difference between a worker and a queen is not genetic but nutritional. The same egg, given royal jelly, becomes a queen. Given regular food, it becomes a worker. This plasticity is extraordinary. Royal jelly contains proteins, sugars, fats, vitamins, and hormones that stimulate the development of ovaries and the larger body size characteristic of queens. It also contains compounds that may influence longevity, as queens live far longer than workers. Humans have long been fascinated by royal jelly and have harvested it for use in supplements and cosmetics, touting its health benefits. While some benefits are supported by research, others remain unproven. What is undeniable is its importance to the hive. Without royal jelly, there are no queens. Without queens, there are no new bees. The substance, produced in tiny glands in the heads of worker bees, is the key to succession, the way colonies ensure their continuity. It is the food of transformation, turning the ordinary into the extraordinary, shaping the future of the hive with each carefully delivered dose. Honey has been depicted in art throughout history. Artists have been drawn to honey and bees for millennia. Cave paintings show early humans harvesting wild honey. Ancient Egyptian tomb paintings depict beekeepers tending hives. Greek and Roman mosaics include images of bees and honeycombs, symbols of industry and sweetness. In medieval illuminated manuscripts, bees appear in the margins, representing purity and divine order. During the Renaissance, still life paintings often featured jars of honey alongside fruit, bread, and wine, celebrating abundance and the pleasures of the table. In more recent centuries, honey and bees have symbolized community, cooperation, and the harmony of nature. The Symbolist and Art Nouveau movements embraced the bee as an emblem of beauty and industry. Modern and contemporary artists continue to explore themes related to bees, often highlighting their ecological importance and the threats they face. Honey's golden color, its viscosity, the way it catches light, make it a compelling subject for visual art. Its presence in art is not merely decorative. It carries meanings of sweetness, labor, nature's generosity, and the interconnectedness of life. When you see honey in a painting or sculpture, you are seeing more than a substance. You are seeing a symbol, one that resonates across cultures and centuries, speaking to something deep in the human relationship with the natural world. Bees regulate hive humidity as carefully as temperature. Humidity inside the hive must be maintained within a narrow range for the health of the colony. Too much moisture encourages mold and disease. Too little can cause honey to dry out excessively or make it difficult for larvae to develop properly. Bees manage humidity through the same fanning behavior they use for temperature control. When humidity is too high, they fan vigorously to increase airflow and evaporate excess moisture. They may also bring in less water and reduce the influx of wet nectar until conditions stabilize. When humidity is too low, they bring in water and spread it inside the hive, allowing evaporation to add moisture to the air. This constant adjustment ensures that the hive remains a stable environment, protected from the fluctuations of the outside world. The bees do not have instruments or measurements. They sense humidity through specialized receptors and respond instinctively. It is biological regulation at its finest, a living system maintaining equilibrium through countless small actions. The hive breathes, adjusts, and balances itself, creating an interior world suited to the delicate needs of brood, honey, and wax. It is a microclimate, engineered by insects, sustained by cooperation, a marvel of collective effort. Bee venom has been studied for potential medical applications. Bee venom, the substance delivered through a bee's sting, contains a complex mixture of proteins, peptides, and enzymes. The most notable component is melittin, which causes pain and inflammation, but also has anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial properties. Traditional medicine in various cultures has used bee venom to treat arthritis, chronic pain, and other inflammatory conditions, a practice known as apitherapy. Modern research is investigating whether bee venom can be used therapeutically. Some studies suggest it may help reduce symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis and osteoarthritis by modulating immune responses. Other research explores its potential in treating certain skin conditions and even its effects on cancer cells in laboratory settings. However, these studies are preliminary, and more research is needed to confirm efficacy and safety. Bee venom therapy is not without risks. Allergic reactions can be severe, and anyone considering it should do so under medical supervision. Despite the risks, the interest in bee venom reflects a broader trend of looking to nature for medicinal compounds. Bees, which provide honey, wax, propolis, and pollen, also produce venom, a defensive substance that may hold healing potential. It is another layer to the complex relationship between humans and bees, another way in which these small creatures intersect with human health and well-being. Honey is used in traditional fermented beverages beyond mead. While mead is the most well-known honey-based fermented drink, honey appears in other traditional beverages around the world. In Ethiopia, tej is a honey wine flavored with gesho, a local plant that acts as a bittering agent and preservative. It is served in special flask-like vessels and is an integral part of Ethiopian culture. In Poland and Eastern Europe, Varieties of mead called meod pitney are produced, ranging from dry to sweet, and are enjoyed during celebrations. In Scandinavia, honey was added to beer-like drinks, creating a sweet, malty beverage. In some parts of Africa and Asia, honey is fermented with fruits or grains, producing complex, regional drinks. These beverages share a common thread: the use of honey to create alcohol through fermentation, a process that humans have practiced for thousands of years. The flavors vary widely depending on the honey used, the fermentation conditions, and the additional ingredients. Some are light and effervescent, others rich and strong. Each reflects the culture and environment from which it comes. Honey, through fermentation, becomes not just food, but a social glue, a drink shared in celebration, ritual, and community. It is another testament to honey's versatility and its enduring place in human life. Bees are sensitive to pesticides and chemicals in the environment. One of the gravest threats facing bees today is exposure to pesticides, particularly neonicotinoids, a class of insecticides widely used in agriculture. These chemicals are absorbed by plants and can appear in nectar and pollen, which bees then carry back to the hive. Even at sublethal doses, neonicotinoids can impair bee navigation, memory, and foraging ability. They weaken immune systems, making bees more susceptible to diseases and parasites. Some studies have linked these chemicals to colony collapse disorder, a phenomenon where entire hives die off suddenly. Herbicides, fungicides, and other agricultural chemicals also pose risks, either directly or by reducing the availability of wildflowers that bees depend on. The issue is complex. Farmers rely on pesticides to protect crops and ensure yields. But the unintended consequences for pollinators, and thus for the very crops being protected, are significant. Some countries and regions have implemented bans or restrictions on certain pesticides, recognizing the need to protect bees. Alternatives, such as integrated pest management, organic farming, and reduced chemical use, are gaining traction. Beekeepers advocate for safer practices, and consumers can support change by choosing organic and sustainably grown food. The relationship between bees and agriculture is fraught with tension, but solutions exist. Protecting bees requires balancing human needs with the health of the ecosystems that ultimately sustain us all. Honey has a low glycemic index compared to refined sugar. The glycemic index measures how quickly a food raises blood sugar levels. Honey, despite being sweet and high in sugars, has a lower glycemic index than refined white sugar. This is because honey is a mixture of fructose and glucose, and fructose is absorbed more slowly than glucose. The exact glycemic index of honey varies depending on its floral source, but generally it ranges from 45 to 64, whereas white sugar is around 65. This means honey causes a slower, more gradual rise in blood sugar, which can be beneficial for maintaining energy levels and avoiding spikes and crashes. However, honey is still a sugar and should be consumed in moderation, especially by individuals with diabetes or those monitoring their blood sugar. It is not a free pass, but a slightly better option when sweetness is desired. The presence of trace nutrients, antioxidants, and enzymes in honey also sets it apart from refined sugar, which offers only empty calories. Choosing honey over sugar is a small step toward a more whole food-based diet, one that values minimally processed, nutrient-dense ingredients. It is not a panacea, but it is a choice that respects the complexity and richness that nature provides, one golden spoonful at a time. Bees communicate the quality of a food source through their dance. The waggle dance does not just convey location and distance, it also communicates quality. A bee that has found an abundant, high-nectar flower patch dances more enthusiastically, performing more cycles and with greater vigor. This enthusiasm recruits more foragers to the site. Conversely, if a food source is mediocre, the dance is less energetic and fewer bees are recruited. This system allows the colony to allocate its labor efficiently, focusing efforts where rewards are greatest. Researchers have tested this by providing artificial feeders with varying sugar concentrations. Bees that fed on higher concentrations danced more and longer, while those on lower concentrations danced less or not at all. This feedback loop ensures that the hive responds dynamically to the landscape. If one patch dries up or declines in quality, bees stop advertising it, and the workforce shifts to better sources. It is a decentralized, adaptive system where information flows from individual foragers to the collective, shaping the behavior of thousands. No central planner is needed. The dance is the language, and the information it carries guides the colony towards survival and success. Bees were domesticated independently in different parts of the world. While European honeybees are the most widespread domesticated species today, beekeeping evolved independently in various regions. In Africa, traditional hive designs differed from those in Europe and Asia. In Central and South America, indigenous peoples kept stingless bees, different species that produce honey but are less defensive and have no functional stinger. These bees were cultivated by the Maya and other cultures, who valued their honey and wax. In Asia, the eastern honeybee, Apis cerana, was domesticated separately from the western honeybee, Apis mellifera. Each species has distinct behaviors and characteristics. The global spread of European honeybees, brought by colonists and traders, has sometimes displaced native bees, creating ecological and economic tensions. Yet, the practice of beekeeping, in its many forms, shows a universal human recognition of the value of bees. Across continents and cultures, people have learned to live alongside bees, to care for them, and to harvest their products. This shared history highlights both the commonality of human needs and the diversity of approaches. Beekeeping is not monolithic. It is a tapestry of traditions, techniques, and relationships, woven from the specific environments and knowledge of countless communities. Honey can crystallize at different rates depending on its sugar composition. The speed at which honey crystallizes depends largely on its ratio of glucose to fructose. Honeys with higher glucose content crystallize faster because glucose is less soluble in water and more prone to forming crystals. Clover and alfalfa honey, both high in glucose, crystallize quickly, sometimes within weeks of harvesting. Acacia and tupelo honey, higher in fructose, can remain liquid for a year or more. Temperature also plays a role. Honey crystallizes fastest at around 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. At very cold or very warm temperatures, crystallization slows or stops. This is why refrigerated honey often crystallizes rapidly, while honey stored at room temperature or slightly warmer stays liquid longer. The presence of pollen, dust, or other particles can act as nucleation sites, speeding up crystallization. Raw, unfiltered honey, with its tiny particles, tends to crystallize faster than ultra-filtered honey. Understanding these factors helps beekeepers and consumers manage honey's texture. If you prefer liquid honey, store it in a warm place. If you prefer crystallized, keep it cool. Neither state is wrong, just different. And both forms offer the same sweetness, the same nourishment, the same golden gift from the hive. Honeybees have evolved alongside flowering plants for millions of years. The relationship between bees and flowers is one of nature's most successful partnerships. When flowering plants first appeared around 140 million years ago, they needed a way to transfer pollen between individuals. Wind worked for some, but it was inefficient and wasteful. Insects offered a better solution. As certain insects began visiting flowers to feed on nectar, they inadvertently carried pollen from bloom to bloom. Plants that produced more attractive flowers, those with bright colors, sweet scents, and generous nectar, received more visits and reproduced more successfully. Meanwhile, insects that were better at collecting nectar and pollen, those with specialized mouthparts, hairy bodies, and good vision, thrived. Over millions of years, this mutual pressure shaped both groups. Flowers became increasingly elaborate, evolving diverse forms to attract specific pollinators. Bees developed sophisticated behaviors, social structures, and communication systems to maximize foraging efficiency. Today, bees and flowers are so intertwined that many plants cannot reproduce without their pollinators, and many bee species cannot survive without specific flowers. This coevolution has created the rich diversity of flowering plants and pollinators we see today. It is a story written over deep time, shaped by countless generations, a partnership that has transformed the planet and filled it with color, fragrance, and life. The scent of honey can evoke memories and emotions. Smell is the sense most closely linked to memory and emotion in the human brain. The olfactory bulb, which processes scents, is directly connected to the amygdala and hippocampus, regions involved in emotion and memory formation. This is why a single whiff of something can transport you instantly to another time and place. The scent of honey, warm and floral, sweet and slightly earthy, often carries associations. For some, it recalls childhood, a grandmother's kitchen, toast dripping with honey, or the sticky sweetness of a summer afternoon. For others, it evokes warmth, comfort, and safety. The smell of honey is gentle, non-threatening, almost universally pleasant. It does not assault the senses, but wraps around them softly. This quality makes honey an effective ingredient in aromatherapy and relaxation practices. Candles made from beeswax and infused with honey scent are popular for creating calm, inviting spaces. The smell alone can slow breathing, ease tension, and prepare the mind for rest. In a world filled with harsh, synthetic fragrances, the natural scent of honey stands apart. It is real, grounded in nature, connected to flowers, bees, and the earth. To smell honey is to smell the work of summer, the warmth of the sun, the patience of bees. It is a scent that soothes, that welcomes, that whispers of sweetness and simple joys. Honeycomb can be eaten, wax and all. While most people are accustomed to liquid honey, honeycomb itself is edible and delicious. The wax that forms the cells is digestible, though it passes through the human digestive system largely unchanged. Chewing honeycomb releases the honey trapped inside, and the wax acts like natural chewing gum, providing texture and a slow release of sweetness. The taste is purer than extracted honey because the comb has not been processed or heated. It is honey as the bees intended it, sealed and perfect. Honeycomb is often sold in chunks, golden sections cut directly from the hive. It can be spread on bread, added to cheese plates, or eaten on its own. The wax is flavorless and waxy, as you might expect, but it is not unpleasant. Some people enjoy the act of chewing it, while others prefer to swallow the honey and discard the wax. Either way, eating honeycomb is an experience that connects you directly to the hive, bypassing human intervention. It is honey in its most natural form, untouched and whole. For those who have never tried it, honeycomb offers a revelation, a reminder that honey is not a manufactured product, but a living food, created by bees, stored in wax, and offered to the world just as nature made it. Bees are essential to the reproduction of many wild plants. While the focus is often on agricultural crops, bees are just as vital to wild ecosystems. Many native plants, from wildflowers in meadows to shrubs in forests, depend on bees for pollination. Without bees, these plants would produce fewer seeds and their populations would decline. This, in turn, would affect herbivores that feed on these plants, predators that feed on the herbivores, and the entire food web. Bees support biodiversity in ways that are often invisible but profoundly important. They enable the reproduction of plants that stabilize soil, filter water, and provide habitat for countless other species. A landscape without bees would be fundamentally different, less colorful, less diverse, less resilient. Conservation efforts increasingly recognize the need to protect not just honeybees, but also the thousands of native bee species that play equally important roles. Many of these native bees are solitary, nesting in the ground or in hollow stems, and they are often more effective pollinators of certain plants than honeybees. Protecting bees means protecting habitats, reducing pesticide use, planting diverse flowers, and recognizing that the health of ecosystems depends on these small, tireless workers. Every bee matters, whether it lives in a hive or works alone, whether it produces honey or simply goes about its quiet business of pollination. Together, they hold the natural world in balance. Honey has been used in traditional medicine across nearly every culture, from ancient China to medieval Europe, from the Middle East to the Americas. Honey has been a cornerstone of traditional healing practices. In traditional Chinese medicine, honey balances the body's energies, moistens the lungs, and relieves coughs. In Ayurveda, it is used to treat digestive issues, boost immunity, and enhance the absorption of herbal medicines. Greek physicians, including Hippocrates, prescribed honey for wounds, digestive ailments, and as a general health tonic. Islamic scholars wrote extensively about honey's healing properties, guided by references in the Quran. Native American tribes used wild honey when available, recognizing its nutritional and medicinal value. In European folk medicine, honey was mixed with herbs to create syrups, salves, and poultices. These traditions were not superstition, but accumulated knowledge, observations passed down through generations. While modern medicine has moved beyond many folk remedies, honey remains validated. Its antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, and antioxidant properties are real and measurable. What ancient healers knew instinctively, science has confirmed empirically. Honey works. It heals. It nourishes. Its role in traditional medicine is a testament to human observation and the enduring wisdom of working with nature rather than against it. The color and clarity of honey can indicate its purity and processing. Clear, uniform honey on a grocery store shelf may look appealing, but it has often been heavily processed. Ultrafiltration removes pollen, wax, and other particles, creating a product that is smooth and consistent, but stripped of some beneficial components. Heating honey to high temperatures allows it to flow easily during bottling but destroys enzymes and diminishes flavor complexity. Raw honey, by contrast, is cloudy, thick, and may contain visible bits of pollen, propolis, or wax. It crystallizes more readily and varies from batch to batch. This variability is not a flaw, but a feature. It shows that the honey is minimally processed, close to its natural state, retaining more of its original properties. Color also tells a story. Very light honey suggests a floral source, like acacia or clover. Darker honey, amber or brown, indicates stronger flavored sources, like buckwheat or forest plants. The richness of color often correlates with antioxidant content. Darker honeys tend to have more antioxidants, though they also have more pronounced flavors that not everyone enjoys. When choosing honey, looking beyond aesthetics to consider processing and source can lead to a more rewarding experience. The cloudiest jar on the shelf may be the one closest to what the bees made, untouched, unaltered, and full of life. Bees contribute to human culture through symbolism and art. Bees have been symbols in human culture for as long as we have recorded history. In ancient Egypt, the bee was a symbol of the pharaoh, representing royalty, power, and the divine. In Greece, bees were associated with the goddess Artemis and were seen as messengers between the mortal and divine worlds. In Christianity, bees symbolized purity, industry, and the soul's journey to heaven. The hive itself became a metaphor for society, order, and cooperation. During the Enlightenment, bees represented rationality and productive labor. In heraldry, bees appear on coats of arms, signifying hard work and community. Napoleon Bonaparte adopted the bee as a symbol of his empire, replacing the royal fleur-de-lis with golden bees. In literature, bees and honey appear in myths, fables, and poetry, often representing sweetness, wisdom, or the rewards of labor. Modern environmental movements use the bee as an icon of ecological fragility and the need for conservation. The phrase "busy as a bee" captures their industrious nature in everyday language. This rich symbolism reflects humanity's admiration for bees, their complexity, their cooperation, and the sweetness they bring into the world. Bees are more than insects. They are woven into the fabric of human thought, art, and culture, carrying meanings that resonate across time and place. Honey production can vary greatly from year to year. A hive's honey yield is not constant. It depends on weather, available forage, the health of the colony, and countless other variables. A wet spring can delay flowering, reducing nectar availability. A drought can cause plants to produce less nectar or stop blooming altogether. Conversely, an ideal season with ample rain followed by warm, sunny weather can lead to an abundant nectar flow and a bumper honey crop. Beekeepers learn to adapt, recognizing that some years are generous and others are lean. This variability is part of working with nature. It cannot be controlled or predicted with certainty. Commercial beekeepers who rely on honey sales for income must plan for fluctuations, saving surplus from good years to offset losses in bad ones. Hobbyist beekeepers often take a more philosophical view, accepting whatever the bees and the season provide. This uncertainty is humbling. It reminds us that we are not in charge, that nature has its rhythms and reasons, and that abundance is a gift, not a guarantee. When honey is plentiful, it feels like a celebration. When it is scarce, it teaches patience and respect for forces beyond our control. In every jar, there is a story of that year, that place, that particular dance between sun, rain, flowers, and bees. The queen's pheromones maintain order and unity in the hive. The queen is more than a reproductive machine. She is the chemical heart of the colony. She produces pheromones that regulate the behavior and physiology of the workers. These pheromones signal her presence and health, keeping the colony calm and cohesive. When the queen is strong and her pheromones abundant, the workers do not attempt to raise new queens. They focus on their tasks, confident in the stability of the colony. If the queen weakens, ages, or dies, her pheromone production declines. The workers sense this absence immediately. They become agitated, and within hours, they begin constructing queen cells and feeding selected larvae royal jelly. The colony is preparing for succession, ensuring continuity. The queen's pheromones also suppress the reproductive development of worker bees, preventing them from laying eggs. In rare cases, when a hive becomes queenless and cannot raise a new queen, some workers may begin laying unfertilized eggs, which develop into drones. But this is a last resort, a failing colony's final attempt at genetic continuity. The queen's chemical presence is thus both a stabilizer and a signal system, maintaining order, preventing chaos, and guiding the collective towards survival. She rules not through authority, but through chemistry, a silent language that binds thousands of individuals into a single, functioning organism. Bees have existed longer than humans by millions of years. When we think about bees, it is easy to imagine them as part of our world, something that exists for us. But bees were here long before humans. They were collecting nectar and building hives when dinosaurs walked the earth. They were refining their social structures, their communication, their relationship with flowers for over 100 million years before the first humans appeared. In that vast stretch of time, bees have remained fundamentally unchanged. The same instincts, the same behaviors, the same golden honey. Humans, by contrast, are newcomers. Our entire history, from the first hominids to the present, spans only a few million years. Recorded history, civilization, is a mere blink, 10,000 years. Bees were ancient when we were young. They had already perfected their craft, already established their place in the world. This perspective is humbling. It reminds us that we are guests in a world shaped by countless other lives, that the systems we depend on existed long before we did and will, hopefully, continue long after. Bees do not need us, but we need them. Recognizing this, respecting it, and acting to protect them is not charity. It is survival. It is acknowledging that we are part of a web far older and larger than ourselves, and that the threads that hold it together, threads spun by creatures like bees, are precious beyond measure. Honey's texture can be manipulated through temperature and stirring. Creamed honey, also known as whipped honey or spun honey, is a controlled crystallization process that results in a smooth, spreadable consistency. The honey is cooled to around 57 degrees Fahrenheit and stirred regularly, which encourages the formation of very fine crystals. These tiny crystals give the honey a creamy texture, similar to butter or frosting, rather than the coarse, grainy texture of naturally crystallized honey. Creamed honey is popular in Europe and is gaining popularity elsewhere. It does not drip, spreads easily, and has a milder, smoother mouthfeel. The process does not add anything to the honey. It simply rearranges the crystals. Some producers add a small amount of already creamed honey to liquid honey as a seed, which accelerates and guides the crystallization process. The result is a product that is still pure honey, but with a texture that many people prefer. Making creamed honey at home is possible with patience and the right conditions. It requires cooling the honey, stirring it daily, and waiting for the crystals to form. The effort is rewarded with a spreadable, velvety honey that transforms how you use and enjoy it. Whether liquid, crystallized, or creamed, honey's versatility in texture matches its versatility in flavor, offering endless possibilities. Bees are capable of thermoregulation even in extreme climates. Bees have adapted to survive in climates from the cold of Siberia to the heat of African deserts. In extreme heat, they cool the hive through water evaporation and fanning, sometimes forming a living curtain at the hive entrance to increase airflow. In extreme cold, they cluster tightly, generating heat through muscle contractions and rotating positions so that no bee freezes on the outer edge. The cluster can maintain an internal temperature of around 93 degrees Fahrenheit, even when the outside air is well below freezing. This ability to regulate temperature allows bees to survive and remain active in environments that would otherwise be inhospitable. However, this resilience has limits. Prolonged extreme weather, whether heat waves or unusually cold winters, can stress colonies, deplete food stores, and increase mortality. Climate change, with its more frequent and severe weather events, challenges bees in new ways. Yet, their adaptability has allowed them to persist for millions of years. With human support, reducing stressors like pesticides and habitat loss, bees can continue to thrive. Their ability to manage temperature is a remarkable example of biological engineering, but it is not limitless. It depends on a stable environment, adequate resources, and the absence of additional threats. Protecting bees means protecting the conditions they need to exercise their extraordinary abilities. Honey can be used as a natural energy source for athletes. Because honey is primarily composed of simple sugars, glucose and fructose, it is quickly absorbed into the bloodstream, providing rapid energy. Athletes have used honey for centuries as a natural performance enhancer. Ancient Greek Olympians ate honey before competitions for stamina and strength. Modern athletes continue this practice, consuming honey before or during endurance events like marathons, cycling, or triathlons. The glucose provides immediate energy, while the fructose is absorbed more slowly, offering sustained fuel. Some studies suggest that honey can be as effective as commercial energy gels, with the added benefit of containing trace nutrients and antioxidants. Honey is also easier on the stomach for some people, causing less gastrointestinal distress than processed sports nutrition products. After exercise, honey can aid recovery by replenishing glycogen stores and providing antioxidants that combat exercise-induced oxidative stress. It is a natural, whole food option in a market often dominated by synthetic supplements. Whether mixed into water, spread on toast, or eaten straight from the jar, honey offers clean, efficient energy. For those seeking alternatives to commercial products, honey is a time-tested choice, validated by both ancient tradition and modern science. The relationship between bees and flowers is one of mutual dependence. Neither bees nor many flowering plants could exist without the other. Bees depend on flowers for food, nectar for energy, and pollen for protein. Flowers depend on bees for reproduction, transferring pollen from one individual to another, enabling fertilization and seed production. This mutualism has driven much of the diversity we see in both groups. Flowers have evolved an astonishing variety of shapes, colors, and scents to attract bees and other pollinators. Some flowers are simple and open, accessible to many insects. Others are complex, with tubular shapes or hidden nectar that only certain pollinators can access. Bees, in turn, have evolved specialized adaptations, long tongues to reach deep into tubular flowers, branched hairs to collect pollen efficiently, ultraviolet vision to see patterns on petals invisible to us. This tight coupling means that when one group suffers, the other does too. Declining bee populations threaten plant reproduction. Loss of flowering habitats threatens bee survival. The relationship is fragile, held together by millions of years of co-evolution, but it can be disrupted by human activity. Protecting this relationship is essential not only for bees and flowers, but for the ecosystems and food systems that depend on them. It is a partnership written into the fabric of life itself, and its preservation is a responsibility we cannot afford to ignore. Honey has been a subject of scientific research for its health properties. In recent decades, scientific interest in honey has grown, with researchers investigating its antimicrobial, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and wound-healing properties. Studies have confirmed that honey can inhibit the growth of bacteria, including antibiotic-resistant strains like MRSA. Research into Manuka honey has revealed the presence of methylglyoxal, a compound with strong antibacterial effects not found in significant quantities in other honeys. Other studies have examined honey's antioxidant content, finding that darker honeys generally contain higher levels of phenolic compounds and flavonoids. These antioxidants may help reduce oxidative stress and inflammation in the body, potentially lowering the risk of chronic diseases. Honey has also been studied for its effects on cough suppression, wound healing, and digestive health. While not a cure-all, honey has demonstrated genuine therapeutic benefits in controlled studies. The body of research continues to grow, validating traditional uses while uncovering new potential applications. For consumers, this research provides reassurance that honey is more than just a sweet indulgence. It is a functional food with measurable health properties, a gift from nature that nourishes and heals in ways both ancient and newly understood. And so, dear listener, we come to the end of our journey through the world of honey. We have walked among the bees, watched them transform nectar into gold, and traced the threads that connect flowers, hives, and human hands. We have explored the chemistry of sweetness, the architecture of the comb, the ancient partnership between bees and the blooms they visit. We have seen how honey heals, preserves, nourishes, and endures. How it carries within it the sunlight of summer, the fragrance of fields, and the patient labor of countless small lives. Honey is ordinary and miraculous, simple and profound. It is something we spread on toast without thinking, yet it holds within it mysteries that scientists are still unraveling. It is a food that has sustained humanity for millennia, that has been offered to gods, used to heal wounds, and given as gifts. It is a reminder that nature, left to its own devices, creates perfection. That collaboration, whether between bees or between bees and humans, can yield sweetness beyond measure. As you lie here now, feeling the weight of rest settling over you, imagine a field in late summer. The air is warm, but a breeze stirs the grasses. Bees move among the flowers, unhurried, purposeful. Their hum is steady, a sound that seems to hold the world in place. You can almost taste the honey they are making, golden and thick, carrying the essence of everything blooming around you. The sun is soft, the sky wide, and the earth beneath you solid and kind. There is nothing you need to do. The bees are working, the flowers are blooming, the honey is forming, drop by careful drop, in the hidden chambers of the hive. You are part of this, connected to the cycles of growth and sweetness, held in the gentle rhythms of the natural world. Let your breath slow. Let your thoughts drift, like pollen on the wind, light and unanchored. The day's work is done. The hive is full. The honey is sealed and safe, waiting patiently for the moment it is needed. And you too can rest, can surrender to the quiet, can let the golden warmth of this story carry you softly into sleep. If you are still awake, you can move on to the next video whenever you are ready. But if your eyelids are heavy, if your body is sinking into stillness, then let go. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and drift now into rest, into peace, into the sweetness of sleep. Good night.